created in the known universe. You have to go at least 24 trillion miles to the nearest star to find a planet that may have life and may have intelligence. And yet our brain only consumes about 20, 30 watts of power, and yet it performs calculations better than any large supercomputer. So it's a mystery. How is the brain wired up? And if we can figure that out, what can we do with it to enhance our mental capabilities? When you look at the brain and all the parts of the brain, they don't seem to make any sense at all. The visual part of the brain is way in the back, for example. Why is the brain constructed the way it is? It's just nothing but an accident of evolution? Well, one way to look at it is through evolution. That is, the back of the brain is the so-called reptilian brain, the most ancient, primitive part of the brain that governs balance, territoriality, mating. And so the very back of the brain is also the kind of brain that you find in reptiles. Now, when I was a child, I would go to the science museum.
Contents. Chapter 1, Pectoral Region, Axilla, Shoulder, and Upper Limb Plates. Body Regions 1. Anterior thorax, superficial pectoral region including female breast 2 to 18. Axilla, deep pectoral region 19 to 27. Arteries and superficial veins of upper limb 29 to 29. Anterior and posterior shoulder, muscles, neurovascular structures, abduction 30 to 33. Upper limb, surface anatomy and dermatosis 34 to 35. Upper limb, general, muscles, vessels and nerves 36 to 45. Brachial plexus 46 to 53. Shoulder, anterior and posterior arm, brachium muscles, vessels and nerves, detailed, 54 to 67. Forearm, general, superficial, 68 to 69. Forearm, anterior aspect, muscles, vessels and nerves 70 to 79. Forearm, posterior aspect, muscles, vessels and nerves 80 to 89. Hand, dorsal aspect 90 to 93. Hand, palmar aspect 94 to 111. Bones and joints of the upper limb 112 to 131. Cross sections of the upper limb 132 to 137. Anatomy of fingers 90 to 93, 95 to 98, 100 to 105, 107 to 110, 130. Chapter 2, the thorax plates. Surface anatomy, thoracic and abdominal wall 139. Anterior thoracic wall 140 to 149. Imus, pleura, lungs, trachea, and bronchi 150 to 165. Pericardium and heart 166 to 187. Conduction system of the heart, heart valves 188 to 191. Circulation of blood 192 to 195. Posterior and superior mediastina 196 to 205. Sympathetic trunks and vagus nerves 206 to 209. Thoracic duct and lymphatic system 210 to 211. Frontal sections and MRIs and cross sections of the chest 212 to 218. Chapter 3, the abdomen plates. Regions of the body, diagram of the GI system 219. Anterior abdominal wall 220 to 231. LWBK 429 underscore FM underscore pi 14 dot 8 WBK 429 underscore FM underscore pi 14 dot 8 November 11th 09505 and 52 seconds PM January 11th 09505 and 52 seconds PM. Female inguinal region, autonomic innervation of female genital organs 232 to 233. Male inguinal region and genital organs 234 to 240. Direct and indirect inguinal hernias 241. Abdominal structures in the newborn 242 to 243. Topographic views of thoracic, abdominal, and pelvic organs 244 to 247. Development of the mesenteries 248 to 249. Topographic views of the abdominal organs in situ 250 to 253. Stomach, blood supply, supply, surface projections, X-rays, lymphatics 254 to 267. Duodenum 268 to 269. Liver 270 to 277. Gallbladder, bile duct system, pancreas, spleen 278 to 287. Small intestine 288 to 293. Large intestine 294 to 305. Posterior abdominal wall, lumbar nerves 306 to 317. Cross sections of abdomen 318 to 322. Chapter 4, the pelvis and perineum plates. Bones of the pelvis and sex differences, ligaments of the pelvis 323 to 329. Female pelvic organs 330 to 335. Placenta, pregnant uterus 336 to 338. Female pelvic vessels, median sagittal section of female pelvis 339 to 342. Female perineum, muscles, urogenital diaphragm, vessels and nerves, external genitalia 343 to 350. Male pelvic organs 351 to 355. Male perineum 355 to 358. Rectum 359 to 362. Cross sections and CT scans, female and male pelvis 363 to 364. Male urogenital region, surface anatomy, vessels, and nerves 365 to 366. Male external genitalia, penis, corpora, spermatic cord, vessels, nerves, and cross sections 367 to 370. Chapter 5, the back, vertebral column, and spinal cord plates. Back, surface anatomy, skeleton, dermatomes, cutaneous nerves, superficial muscles 371 to 373. Back, superficial and intermediate muscle layers 373 to 374. Back, intermediate and deep muscle layers, semispinalis capitis muscle, muscle charts 375 to 381. Upper back and suboccipital triangle 381 to 385. Cross sections showing typical spinal nerve and deep back muscles 386. Vertebral column and vertebrae, ligaments and intervertebral discs 387 to 401. Spinal cord 402 to 408. Chapter 6, the lower limb plates. Anterior and medial THI, muscles, vessels, and nerves 409 to 427. Gluteal region and posterior THI 428 to 439. Anterior, medial and posterior nerves of the lower limb 440 to 441. Popliteal fossa, muscles, vessels and nerves 442 to 445. Anterior and lateral compartments of the leg 446 to 453. Dorsum of the foot 454 to 459. LWBK 429 underscore FM underscore pi 14.I9 WBK 429 underscore FM underscore pi 14.I9 November 11th 09505 and 52 seconds PM January 11th 09505 and 52 seconds PM. Posterior compartment of the leg 460 to 469. Plantar aspect of the foot 470 to 477. Bones and joints of the lower limb 478 to 509. Cross sections and MRIs of the lower limb 510 to 516. Chapter 7, the neck and head plates. Surface anatomy of the head and neck 517 to 518. Triangles of the neck, platysma muscle, fascius, nerves and lymphatics 519 to 528. Cervical plexus of nerves, trunks of the brachial plexus, accessory nerve 529 to 534. Arteries and veins of the neck, thyroid gland, lymphatics 535 to 540. Prevertebral region, subclavian and vertebral arteries 541 to 544. Submental and submandibular regions 545 to 546. Superficial muscles of the face, facial nerve diagram, muscle charts 547 to 550. Parotid gland, muscles of mastication, facial nerve branches 551 to 556. Temporomandibular joint 557 to 558. Internal carotid artery, superficial and deep veins of the head 559 to 562. Vessels and nerves of the deep face 563 to 566. Bones of the skull, adult and newborn 567 to 572. Scalp, diploic veins, radiographs of the internal carotid artery 573 to 574. Dura mater, dural sinuses 575 to 578. Internal carotid and vertebral arteries to the brain 579 to 584. Base of the skulls, bones, vessels, nerves, inferior surface of the brain 585 to 590. Inferior surface of the bony skull 591 to 592. Eye, anterior view, bony socket, nasolacrimal system 593 to 599. Eye, external structure and bones of the nasal cavity 600 to 612. Nose, external structure and bones of the nasal cavity 613 to 616. Paranasal sinuses 617 to 618. Oral cavity, anterior view, lips, palatine tonsil, and oropharynx 619 to 620. Oral cavity, sublingual region, palate, submandibular gland 621 to 623. Floor of the oral cavity 624 to 626. Tongue 627 to 632. Mandibular and maxillary teeth 633 to 640. Pharynx, muscles, arteries and nerves 641 to 649. Larynx 650 to 656. External, middle and internal ears 657 to 668. Chapter 8, Cranial nerves plates. Cranial nerves, attachments to the brain, foramina, base of skull 669 to 670. Cranial nerves I to 12 671 to 694. Index 11, I-24. LWBK 429 underscore INTFM underscore pi 14 dot INDEX WBK 429 underscore INTFM underscore pi 14 dot INDEX November 16th 09348 and 39 seconds PM January 16th 09348 and 39 seconds PM. Posterior compartment of the leg 460 to 469. Plantar aspect of the foot 470 to 477. Bones and joints of the lower limb 478 to 509. Cross-sections and MRIs of the lower limb 510 to 516. Chapter 7. The neck and head plates. Surface anatomy of the head and neck 517 to 518. Triangles of the neck, platysma muscle, fascius, nerves and lymphatics 519 to 528. Cervical plexus of nerves, trunks of the brachial plexus, accessory nerve 529 to 534. Arteries and veins of the neck, thyroid gland, lymphatics 535 to 540. Prevertebral region, subclavian and vertebral.
Prevertebral region, subclavian.
Prevertebral region. Prevertebral region, subclavian and vertebral arteries 541 to 544 krypton graphane, orgasm sperm. Submental and submandibular regions 545 to 546. Superficial muscles of the face, facial nerve diagram, muscle charts 547 to 550. Parotid gland, muscles of mastication, facial nerve branches 551 to 556. Temporomandibular joint 557 to 558. Internal carotid artery, superficial and deep veins of the head 559 to 562. Vessels and nerves of the deep face 563 to 566. Bones of the skull, adult and newborn 567 to 572. Scalp, diploic veins, radiographs of the internal carotid artery 573 to 574. Dura mater, dural sinuses 575 to 578. Internal carotid and vertebral arteries to the brain 579 to 584. Base of the skulls, bones, vessels, nerves, inferior surface of the brain 585 to 590. Inferior surface of the bony skull 591 to 592. Eye, anterior view, bony socket, nasolacrimal system 593 to 599. Eye, external structure and bones of the nasal cavity 600 to 612. Nose, external structure and bones of the nasal cavity 613 to 616. Paranasal sinuses 617 to 618. Oral cavity, anterior view, lips, palatine tonsil, and oropharynx 619 to 620. Oral cavity, sublingual region, palate, submandibular gland 621 to 623. Floor of the oral cavity 624 to 626. Tongue 627 to 632. Mandibular and maxillary teeth 633 to 640. Pharynx, muscles, arteries and nerves 641 to 649. Larynx 650 to 656. External, middle and internal ears 657 to 668. Chapter 8, Cranial nerves plates. Cranial nerves, attachments to the brain, foramina, base of skull 669 to 670. Cranial nerves I to 12 671 to 694. Index 11, I-24. LWBK 429 underscore INTFM underscore pi 14 dot IND XWBK 429 underscore INTFM underscore pi 14 dot IND X November 16th 09 3:48 and 39 seconds PM January 16th 09 3:48 and 39 seconds PM. Plate 287 CT scan showing a hemorrhage within the spleen. Plate 289 radiograph of the jejunum, ileum, cecum, and ascending colon. Plate 291 radiograph of the small intestine. Plate 293 superior mesenteric arteriogram. Plate 295 inferior mesenteric arteriogram. Plate 302 variations in the location of the vermiform appendix. Plate 305 radiograph of the large intestine. Plate 310 arteriogram of the renal artery. Plate 311 surface anatomy of the back, showing location of the kidneys. Plate 313 retrograde pyelogram. Plates 318 to 322 CT scans of the abdomen. Plate 325 radiograph of the pelvis. Plate 330 uterosalpingogram. Plate 332 variations in the position of the uterus in the pelvis. Plate 334 CT scan of the female pelvis. Plate 337 X-ray of the pregnant uterus. Plate 338 pregnant uterus, fetal sonograms. Plate 339 variations in the divisions of the internal iliac artery. Plate 340 arteriogram of the iliac arteries in the female. Plate 344 female external genitalia. Plate 353 peritoneum over empty and full bladders. Plate 356 radiographs of male pelvic organs. Plates 363, 364 CT scans of the female and male pelvis. Plate 371 surface anatomy of the back. Plate 372 cutaneous nerves and dermatomes of the back. Plate 391 radiograph of odontoid process and atlantoaxial joints. Plate 398 intervertebral discs. Plates 400, 401 radiograph of the vertebral column. Plates 402 to 407 spinal cord. Plate 408 lumbar and sacral punctures into the spinal column. Plates 409 to 412 lower limb, surface anatomy. Cutaneous nerves, bones. Plates 413 to 415 lower limb, arteries, muscles. Anterior and posterior aspects. Plate 422 variations in the deep femoral artery and circumflex arteries. Plate 428 surface vessels and nerves, gluteal region, posterior THI. Plates 434, 435 safe zones for intramuscular injections in gluteal region. Plates 440, 441 nerves of the lower limb. Plate 444 variations in branching of anterior tibiofibular arteries. Plate 446 superficial veins and nerves of anterior and medial leg, foot. Plate 453 ankle and foot movements. Plate 454 vessels and nerves of the dorsal foot. Plate 460 vessels and nerves on the posterior aspect of the leg, calf. Plates 474, 476 vessels and nerves on the plantar aspect of the foot. Plates 483 blood supply and radiograph of the hip joint. Plate 484 484 radiograph of the knee joint. Plate 489 4 MRIs of the knee joint. Plate 490 arthrogram of the knee joint. Plate 491 arthroscopic images of the knee joint. Plate 493 radiographs of the knee joint. Plate 494 movements at the knee joint. Plate 498 X-ray of the ankle joint. Plate 508 radiograph, MRI of ankle, subtalar, and talonavicular joints. Plates 511 to 513 CT scans of the mid and distal, THI and mid-leg. Plate 515 MRI through the metatarsal bones of the foot. Plates 517, 518 surface anatomy of the face and neck. Plate 599 surgical entry into the respiratory system. Plate 525 drainage of lymph of superficial, lateral scalp and face. Plate 535 jugular veins in the neck. Plates 536 to 538 thyroid gland. Plates 548, 553, 554 facial nerve on the face. Plates 557, 558 temporomandibular joint. Plate 560 variations in the maxillary artery. Plate 571, 572 newborn skull. Plates 573, 574 scalp, diploic veins, internal carotid artery. Plate 582 variations in the formation of the circle of Willis. Plates 583, 584 arteriogram of the internal carotid and vertebral arteries. Plates 588 to 590 base of the skull and brain, cranial nerves and vessels. Plate 593 eye from anterior. Plate 601 to 604 nerve in the orbit. Plate 609 horizontal section of the eyeball. Plate 611, 612 MRI, vessels and nerves within the orbit and retina. Plate 616 vessels and nerves in the nasal cavity. Plate 617, 618 paranasal sinuses. Plate 619 to 622 oral cavity. Plate 625, 626 salivary glands. Plate 633 to 640 anatomy of the dental arches and teeth, THEIR innervation. Plate 641 to 648 pharynx. Plate 649 to 656 larynx. Plate 657 to 668 external, middle, and internal ear. Plate 669 to 694 cranial nerves I-12. LWBK 429 underscore FM underscore pi 14 dot I'm 12 WBK 429 underscore FM underscore pi 14 dot I'm 12 November 11th 09505 and 52 seconds PM January 11th 09505 and 52 seconds PM. Pectoral muscle plates 15, 20. Shoulder muscles plates 30, 33. Anterior brachial muscles, flexors, plates 56, 57. Posterior brachial muscles, extensors, plate 65. Anterior forearm muscles, flexors, plate 73, 74. Posterior forearm muscles, extensors, plates 80, 81. 85, 87. THNR muscles of the hand plates 96, 97. Hypophonar muscles of the hand plate 98. Dorsal interosseous muscles of the hand plate 102. Palmar interosseous muscles of the hand plate 103. Intercostal muscles plate 143. Subclavius muscles plate 148. Anterior abdominal wall muscles plates 225 to 227. 230. Posterior abdominal wall muscles, and the plate 314. Diaphragm. Muscles of the pelvic diaphragm, and the plate 346. Urogenital diaphragm. Intermediate and deep back muscles, plate 379. Deep muscles of the back, continued, plate 380. Muscles of the suboccipital region, plate 385. Anterior muscles of the hip and anterior, plate 426. THI muscles. Medial, lateral, and posterior THI muscles, plate 427. Muscles of the gluteal region, plate 434. Muscles of the posterior THI, plate 436. Muscles of the anterior and lateral, plate 448. Compartments of the leg. Muscles of the dorsum of the foot, plate 457. Muscles of the posterior compartment, plates 468, 469. Of the leg. Muscles of the sole of the foot, plate 477. Infrahyoid muscles of the neck, plate 519. Sternocleidomastoid muscle, plate 520. Muscles of the posterior triangle of the neck, plate 528. Anterior vertebral muscles, plate 542. Muscles of face and head, suprahyoid, plate 549. Scalp muscles, ear, eyelids. Muscles of face and head, muscles of plate 550. Nose and mouth. Muscles of mastication, plates 555, 556. Schema of extraocular muscles, plate 607. Extrinsic muscles of the tongue, plate 632. Muscles of the palate and pharynx, plate 648. Muscles of the larynx, see notes under plates 653, 654. Figs, 653.1 to 653.4 and figs, 654.1 to 654.3. Muscles of the middle ear, plate 657. 663 to 665. Plates containing muscle charts. LWBK 429 underscore FM underscore pi 14. I'm 13 WBK 429 underscore FM underscore pi 14. I'm 13 November 11th 09505 and 52 seconds PM January 11th 09505 and 52 seconds PM.
And look at the snakes sometimes, and they would stare back at me. And I would wonder, what are they thinking about? Well, I think now I know. What they're thinking about was, is this person lunch? Then we have the center part of the brain going forward, and that's the so-called monkey brain, the mammalian brain, the brain of emotions, the brain of social hierarchies. And then finally, the front of the brain is the human brain, especially the